Welcome to the Inbound Logistics video podcast series presented by Inbound Logistics Magazine. Today, we'll be discussing innovations in supply chain and manufacturing and how they're shaping the warehouse and the factory of the future. Joining us is Erez Agmoni, Global Head of Innovation at Maersk, and John Den Hartog, Senior Director of Product Management at Autodesk. And here's our host, Amy Roach.
Thank you, Jeff. And Erez and John, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Amy. Great to be here.
Before we jump in, we have a lot to discuss, but I would just ask each of you to quickly go through a little bit on your background and what you're currently focusing on in the innovation space. And Erez, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Amy. So my name is Erez. I'm originally from Israel, but live quite around the world: Japan, Thailand, Panama, Florida, New Jersey. I'm 14 years with the company, did multiple roles and moved with the company around. In the last 3 years, I'm responsible for the innovation at Maersk, where the fake background that you see behind me is actually the innovation center that we have in Jersey City. We have multiple things that we're looking after in terms of innovation. I'll talk about this a little bit later on. But super excited to be here and share and discuss a little bit more about innovation and supply chain in general.
Great, thank you. And John, give us your quick rundown.
Great. Hi there. So I'm John Den Hartog from Autodesk. And at Autodesk, we make software for people that make things. So if you think about a vehicle or building or piece of infrastructure, a game or movie even, there's a good chance that our tools were used somewhere along the way to bring it to life. And we started with AutoCAD, but 3D design and lifecycle management are now the majority of our business. And that goes across manufacturing and construction. So we've got a really good view into how the market is evolving and where companies are investing in their process improvements. Personally, I lead product management in our manufacturing vertical. And our focus is now on building a data platform where our customers can virtually develop the products and then manage how they're manufactured and then ultimately brought to market. So very glad to be with you both today.
Great. Thank you. And excited to have your two different perspectives and see where the synergies are there. So let's kick it off with some of the terminology. We talk a lot about the warehouse of the future, the factory of the future, in our discussions about innovation. Erez, I'll start with you. What does the warehouse of the future look like? When you say that, when you think about that, what does that really mean?
That's a great question. And definitely there are multiple views of warehouse of the future when I talk internally and externally. But in my mind, it's first of all a place that there is no injury. And warehouse is still relatively dangerous place. You have injuries, you have equipment, you have people and machines. And first of all, there is no injuries. The second thing around it, it's a place where we improve the productivity, where people working alongside technologies, and the technology can come from multiple angles. It can be robotics, it can be other automation, it can be different digital solutions, and etc. And that helps people to improve utilization and improve the productivity of that specific location, because you don't want to have a warehouse that sits idle and waiting for business to move around. And last but not least, for me, it's also a place that helps the sustainability and the impact on the environment, reduce impact on the environment, and bring it to net zero or close to that in the very short run around that. So that's kind of the three main key elements that I see warehouse of the future.
Okay, great. John, any crossover there for you in terms of when you say factory of the future, what are you talking about there? What does that encompass?
Yeah, well, the factory of the future as a concept has evolved a lot over time. Last few years, we've seen some scrambling just to get back to volumes that companies were running pre-pandemic. But recently, the past couple quarters, we started to see a shift. Companies have gotten their feet under them and they're able to take more proactive steps looking forward. So we've actually seen a little bit of this in some research that we've done, where we've got a state of design and make report where we poll thousands of industry leaders around the world. And we've seen a 30% drop in uncertainty. And that's giving these companies more room to invest in the future. So Today, we see them investing in things like resiliency, of course. So being able to plug into digital networks of suppliers that allow them to rethink their how they're sourcing components and parts that go into what they're manufacturing. Also agility, so being able to adapt to changing customer demands and being able to readily customize. And then Erez mentioned focus on sustainability. We're seeing that too. There are rising expectations and market requirements for reducing carbon impact, and we're seeing investments there as well. And those things coupled together are really all about improving profitability, not just driving down cost, but top line as well. And together that brings more profitability to these facilities.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Those are all really key. I want to go a little further, and maybe John, I'll start with you and kick it back to you this time. Tell me a little detail about Autodesk, particularly, and how you are working to enhance innovation in the manufacturing sector.
Our primary focus is on bringing the design world and the make world together. So we refer to this as convergence of design and make. And that's because in many cases, the design department and the manufacturing department have been speaking a different language. The tools don't talk to each other, and data is isolated. So what that means is that they're not able to make as effective decisions along the way. And oftentimes there are opportunities to improve the manufacturability and the overall performance of a system if they gain insights from the production manager or the shop floor that's typically been separate. So we're razor focused on unifying these sets of technologies that used to serve design and manufacturing into one platform based in the cloud. The aim there is better time to market, just much more agility. A lot of the topics that I mentioned earlier will come from that.
Got it. Okay. And then at Maersk, Erez, I know you have an entire innovation center, as you mentioned, in Jersey City. Tell us a little more about some of the innovations that are coming out of that center.
Sure. So we have mainly 3 pillars of innovations that we're focusing on. And I like what John mentioned about the things that are not talking to each other. You're trying to unify it. This is definitely an important element everywhere you go in terms of innovation. But to deep dive into those 3 pillars, so the first pillar is autonomous and robotics innovation. That's where we're trying different robotic solutions, different autonomous solutions, things that can actually support and take over risk jobs with risk, or jobs that are not healthy for people, and kind of support the people to do that in collaboration. The second pillar is digital innovation. That's where we're testing, deploying right now actually a digital twin for transportation work. We are looking to build also a digital twin for our warehousing side. This is still not started, but the transportation, we are already in phase 2 of that, and looks very promising. Also under digital, we have things like computer vision, AI, machine learning, multiple other cool buzzwords that you hear, but they actually are working in our environment and supporting us. The third pillars of innovation is actually much more external focused. That's where it's a product innovation. That's where we're creating new solution, new product for our customers to improve their supply chain. So one of the things that we realized is that supply chain is, and I think we all realized it during COVID, but we are seeing it on a day in, day out, it's very fragile and very unstable. Just I'll give you an example. A simple move between China and the US from the port of any port in China into a door in the US takes anywhere between 30 days to 120 days. That's a huge variation there that very difficult for customers or for other people that needs to move cargo to plan around that. And we are basically trying to help to minimize that variation, bring it into something much more precise, that they can actually reduce safety stocks, reduce waste in the supply chain, and bring it in a much more helpful way. So this is kind of the product innovation work that we are doing.
Got it. Okay. Those technologies are so interesting and exciting. And I think you can't talk about innovation without, mentioning technology, obviously. And I know in the supply chain space, we covered a lot, the AI, the digital twins, the automation. John, how are you seeing that on your side, from your end in the manufacturing world? Where are those technologies playing out?
Yeah, let's see. So in our space, what we see a lot of is customers are developing more and more sophisticated products, which blend different types of capabilities together, for example, hardware and software, and they need several things to help enable their success. The first one is being able to represent those products with a robust data model. That means being able to represent all of the things that make up a product and to be able to bring it together in a coordinated way. So we're building a cloud native data model to enable that. Once you have that data representation, you need to represent it digitally. So a way to represent the model just visually, be able to interact with the geometry, see the behavior of a product and its performance before it's actually built is really important because it enables trade-offs earlier in the development cycle. And when you have the data unified on a common model and a way to digitally represent the product that's being produced, then you have this potential for automation. And for a long time, we've used things like simulation models, and those still provide tremendous value. But we're starting to see generative capabilities be able to take on some of the more complex things that we weren't able to explore before. So being able to look at trade-offs between structural performance and manufacturability, being able to assess where designs might be adjusted to tackle the requirements that they need to meet, even across hardware and software. So we've been working on generative capabilities for quite some time, primarily in the mechanical design and manufacturing space, but we see those capabilities evolving in the future, enabling our customers being able to explore more design alternatives to help improve performance and cost.
Right, right. And obviously Gen AI is just a huge buzzword, and we're only at the very early stages of it. Do you see that just continuing to really be a game changer in the manufacturing space?
Yeah, I think one is the technology is maturing, and I think we're able to build more complex and powerful models. But the other significant change is that the broader market sees potential. In the past several quarters, we've seen things like ChatGPT kind of make it possible to understand the potential behind generative for the masses. And so we've seen a lot more customer demand and interest in the promise of AI. And so we've been accelerating investment in that area.
So I think we talk a lot about AI in supply chain and in manufacturing, and specifically Gen AI. And while everyone, I think at this point has heard of it, you'd have to live under a rock to not. Maybe you can each just give a quick little primer on how it applies in supply chain and how it applies in manufacturing.
Sure. So I'll kick it off and hand it to John. So from supply chain, I think one of the elements that Gen AI can really helping us is dig into the tons of data that we have from multiple different scenarios of routing a shipment. If you think about the possibilities that shipments can, when it starts all the way from factories until it's reached to the final destination door, it has multiple and numerous ways that it can go. Of course, most of the time, most customers are prescribed, hey, move it from A to B, from B to C, from C to D. With the help of Gen AI, you actually can let the system decide, check actually all the different components in the system, and actually allow to move the goods in a much more nimble way that bring it again and again at the same transit time that we talked about before, and bring it again and again at the same lower cost that you want to achieve at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, you can actually remove amount of safety stocks that you normally buy, release some of the money that tied into inventory to do some other things, or develop new products, or create new things. And by doing that today is very difficult. You really need somebody or some tool to actually go and dig into all the different data out there and the different possibilities and come up with the best solutions around that.
Got it. Okay, that's really helpful. And John, if you could, share something similar for manufacturing.
Yeah, just thinking about it in that context, probably the biggest area we've been investing is what we call generative design, and that it kind of turns the design process on its head by, rather than having the engineer think of different design possibilities and then seeing if they meet the requirements, you focus the time on defining what those requirements are up front, and not just mechanical requirements like structural performance or vibration frequencies and so forth, but also manufacturing constraints. What if something can only be manufactured using a certain type of milling machine, or maybe you're going to entertain the possibility of an additive manufacturing process. With generative, you're prescribing those requirements of what the thing has to do, and then the system will go out and generate design alternatives to consider. And what that does is it affords two things, really. One is you're able to search a broad array of different possibilities, different types of design strategies that might best fit the requirements. And ultimately, engineers are able to find something that enables them to better optimize. But the other thing that comes out of it is by searching such a wide array of different alternatives, the engineer is able to evaluate them, compare and understand why one type of solution performs better than another. And it's that deeper understanding of trade-offs that allows them to better approach other types of design challenges. So generative is combining design and manufacturing together, and it's also enabling those that are involved in the process to understand how a wider variety of different design alternatives can perform.
Got it. Great. I want to go back to touch on the point of data that you were making before. Data-driven solutions are obviously so crucial. Can you tell us a little bit more how Autodesk is using data-driven solutions for innovation?
Sure. Yeah. So covering the entire product development and manufacturing lifecycle, we have a platform where information about manufacturing outcomes is available to the designer. So we can see where we're having challenges hitting a manufacturing tolerance, for example. Mm-hmm. And that type of challenge likely incurs costs and incurs a lot of scrap, a high rate of scrap. And there are business consequences to those challenges. So we're able to feed that manufacturing challenge back to the engineering department in a very fluid way, so that the product design can be adjusted if needed to avoid that cost and that impact downstream in manufacturing.
Got it. Great. Yeah. Erez, back to you on those two. Talk a little bit about AI in the warehouse of the future and the importance of having data-driven solutions.
Sure. So AI definitely is going to be a key for success of the warehouse of the future. There is multiple elements that I was starting to talk about the digital twin before, and that is actually powered by AI. And if John was talking about simulation, we used to run simulation in the past, but what we figure out is the more you run simulation, the more you realize that you can't just think of everything in order to come up for the exact feed of the simulation and bring it right. Everything looks perfect at the end of the day in the simulation world. Mm-hmm. Of course, you start with some problems, then you solve this, and things look great. You comes to reality, and boom, it's fall on you that it's kind of like, sorry, you forgot about this, you forgot about that. Things that you can't just keep thinking about all the time. Mm-hmm. So what we see is that the AI, the digital twin, for example, we are going into 3 different distinguished steps in order to build that. The first one is a simple visibility. You just create a visibility of what's going on, where things are, where is each part of whatever you're trying to put into them. Then you bring the AI actually to support you with optimization. You want to do a better optimization. It's more of, let's say, call it machine learning than the AI here yet. Mm-hmm. It's more of a simple form of that. You optimize things. You want to make the machine give you the best solution out of that. Then the third steps is basically where the AI is really needed, is the what-if scenario and the simulation based on real information and real data that exists in the system, not something that you feed it from just because you kind of came up with certain limitation. Because it's a human machine kind of systems, is kind of, I would say, it's very complicated and things can change every single minute. And that's where it's important to bring the real things from the past and kind of evolve it with the generative AI of things and start to run different scenarios. One other things that we are using today, or we're starting to use today, it's actually a combination of Autodesk. So we are designing our own solutions, sortation system, warehouses with Autodesk as well. It's kind of an interest to bring because both companies are here on the call. So in the past, we just ran those designs 2D, sometimes 3D kind of, and trying to show people how it looks like. What we are now starting to test is actually using the goggles and Vision Pro with spatial computing to actually walk into the design, which is something that before that was not possible. So you create a design and just upload it to another third party, which created it like you're actually walking into the design. You can see different problems. You can see height issues. You can see dangerous areas. So it's something very, very interesting to kind of walk into and test into that. Now, in regards to the data, there's nothing can be done without the data. There's everything is related to the data and the movement of things. And unfortunately, in many, many companies, including in Maersk, it's not easy to put your hands on the data because there are so many systems, there are so many different solutions that provide data, and they are not always referring to each other with the right connection between the movements. So there's a lot of work behind the scene to bring the data into one data lake and make some kind of connectivity between that, because without the data, it's very, very difficult to actually build something new around that. So this is one of the key missions that we're taking on ourselves is to bring the data so we can actually using it and work based on that to create all these solutions.
Right. And I guess one of the challenges is almost the opposite. Too much data. Sometimes you don't know how to take the data that you're getting and make it so that it's an effective use for something, for an outcome that you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it needs to be searchable and accessible to the broad variety of stakeholders that need to access it without specialized tools. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. I'm going to jump backwards just a little bit and talk or ask you to talk rather about some of the drivers of innovation. So obviously some of this stuff is just, incredibly cool, but there's a reason behind it. So tell us a little bit, what are some of the pain points that companies are looking to you both for these innovations, to help them solve?
Yeah, I can jump in. And the first thing that comes to mind for me is about just the workforce, the nature of the workforce today. I think it's been covered in maybe previous episodes here that we have challenges in manufacturing. A lot of jobs are unfilled. Some of the stats that I've seen recently place the number over 500,000 manufacturing jobs still unfilled. And 77% of manufacturers are reporting that it's a struggle for them to bring people in. With those unfilled roles, companies are looking to automate and make sure that the people that they're bringing on staff are helping them move forward in the most impactful ways with the highest value added work. So for us, we see this need for automation driving a lot of the desire for innovation in this space.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Similar challenges in the supply chain and in the warehouse. Erez, can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So quite a lot of challenges in the supply chain, especially when you are 3PL trying to service customers. There are multiple elements that make you inefficient. It's not your cargo. You don't know things all the time when they're going to show up exactly. You're not controlling, nobody's controlling of the demand, but you have no influence, no visibility of demand. You design certain things and certain the flow of the warehouse of the goods around the world. And you design it in a certain way, and then you actually realize that things needs to change. So there is a lot of inflexibility in the old way of designing warehouses and designing supply chain and designing movements of goods. And first of all, what we're trying to do is to make sure that we can give the most efficient service to customers at the best cost possible. And for that, you need to be innovative, you need to make things in a very flexible way that allowing you to change your environment relatively fast. And doing so while improving the productivity of things. So that's kind of one element that pushing us for innovation. Of course, the other one is, as I mentioned at the beginning, is the safety and ensuring that people life are kind of in balance with between the work that they're doing and between the risk that we don't want them to take. So there is multiple risky jobs when you come to supply chain, and you definitely want to make sure that you don't kind of push people into those type of roles, and you're supporting them with other solutions that exist out there and can help them to kind of mitigate for that. So those are kind of two key scenarios that helping us to push the innovation forward.
Right. Okay. Got it. And what about the benefits? So if you are a forward-thinking company that is embracing innovation in your supply chain, in your warehouse, what are some of the benefits that you're reaping from that?
So of course, benefits coming twofold. One, you reduce the cost to operate. This is from the bottom line, so you can improve the way you operate. You can reduce some cost there. At the same time, you can improve productivity. But on the other hand, you can also grow your top line, ensure that you have you can gain much more business. People are happy to see that their supply chain or their goods going through supply chain that is innovative, that is flexible, that allow them to do things in a much more nimble way, so they're willing to give more business. Quite a lot of the things that we're actually doing in collaboration with customers. We do see that certain customers are willing to co-create things with us at the innovation center and bring it to life. So there is a very huge interest from our customer sides to actually be in the front line of those type of things. And last but not least, you improve life of people on Earth by supporting them and bringing them. So it's good to see colleagues and other people that actually improving their life by going through those innovations.
John, anything on your side?
Yeah, I was just kind of reflecting on what Erez mentioned about being able to get closer to the end customer, and that's what we see a lot of as companies further digitize and move along their transformation journey. They become more agile, and that enables them to better respond to customer requirements that they're trying to meet. So they can be faster, they can adapt their products to better suit where they're going to be used out in the field.
Right. Makes sense. And one of the tricky things I think with innovation is anytime you're trying to add something new and even something maybe unproven or experimental is, how do you work that into your current workflows, right? You're innovating, but you still have to get a job done. So from both of your points of view, what are some ways that companies are doing that successfully, bringing in new innovations, into existing workflows and adding value to their supply chains and to their manufacturing operations?
I can jump in first. So from our perspective, the way we run innovation, the way we test innovation is through proof of concept. So it's not just, okay, wake up in the morning, what should I do today? Here you go, this is something. We start with the problems. So we're looking at what type of problems our customers have or internal stakeholders have as part of the supply chain. And trying to solve those problems, we actually scouting the market to see, is there an existing solution out there to solve that? Or maybe we need to go to a startup to create something for us, or they're creating something close enough that we can actually use, or just shift them a little bit. And that's where we're starting to bring it to life and design and testing it. First of all, on paper, what is the impact? What do we believe the impact will be if testing it in this environment or that environment? And we're ending up with a proof of concept that is being done in actual physical place where the work is really being done. It's not just in the innovation center. We're testing it in a scenario that allowing us to pull out immediately if we need, if something doesn't go well, or just ignore that and continue normally. and we bring it live in a smaller scale. If everything goes well, that's great, and we can enlarge the scale and can actually start deploy it in other locations. If it doesn't go well, basically go back to the beginning, trying to find a new solution, and return to the cycle again and again.
Right.
And on the Autodesk side, it's actually quite similar. What we try to encourage our customers to do is start small. It could be a proof of concept, like Erez mentioned, but they can implement a digital type of approach in a variety of different areas in a factory. It could be quality, inventory management, design, component or equipment maintenance. The list goes on and on. And we try to encourage customers to don't try to boil the ocean all at once. You can start small in an area that's contained, have some success, and grow over time. And we've built our tools to enable that. They're really designed to kind of shrink wrap around everything that's running currently. Allow our customers to digitize one part while still working on paper processes that might be supported elsewhere. And then as they have success, our aim is to empower them to grow in the areas where they see the most potential on their own without requiring a significant additional investment. So what we see being successful in driving this transformation is do it incrementally, start small and grow from there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Really key. Okay, so as two leading companies in innovation, I'm curious to know, what role do you think company culture plays in driving innovation? So, for Maersk and for Autodesk, what are some of the ways that the company fosters innovation, and how much of that, plays a role in being able to develop innovative solutions for your customers?
I think that company culture is super important. Without it, there will be no innovation. If the company is not open for allowing people to test and fail, it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. In order to change and support that culture, we actually created an innovation executive education, as we call it. It's not just for executive, but it's for people that are actually will be part of or could be part of innovation and support the company growth. And it goes through 4 chapters, where the first one is actually an online training by Sloan University professors talking about change management and innovation and how is it work in large companies, how difficult it is to change. It follows into 3 days actually immersing into a collaboration that we do with MIT Center of Transport and Logistics, allowing the people to actually learn about different researches, different solutions, technologies, simulations that exist out there, putting the hands-on play with those type of things. Following in the same trip, they also go see a few robotics companies in the Boston area. A few weeks after that, we're sending them to Silicon Valley to meet with venture capitals and startups, so they can actually learn the mentality of the venture capitals. Why do they spend money on startups? Learn the mentality of startups. How can they come up with ideas like that? What make them feel that it can be something that people will be willing to invest? And it's ending up in the last chapter, actually, at the Innovation Center, where people learn how to pitch their ideas, and it's really finished by a Shark Tank style competition, where everybody have like 5 minutes to present their idea and why the company should invest in that solution. The winners, actually, we are taking their ideas, and together with them, we're supporting them to run a proof of concept on that, to see if it's actually something worth for us to keep deploy and install in the company. By doing that kind of education, what we see that we create a lot of ambassadors of innovation, and those people talk to their people in their teams and bringing more people to kind of be motivated to change and to be ready to change for innovation. Because without that, it's very, very difficult to move forward.
Yeah, fantastic. Wow, that sounds really exciting. A lot of fun things to be part of there to stimulate innovation. I love that. Yeah. John, how about you at Autodesk?
Yeah, well, what works for our customers, that at least that I've observed, is just demonstrating a a commitment to going full digital, and so that would mean company leadership would really take the lead in embracing just collaboration with modern tools. Just it could be as simple as swapping out something like a tablet or a clipboard with a tablet. So just demonstrating that as a company committed to going digital is a big help. The next one is to celebrate innovation from within. So Shark Tank's a great idea. I haven't seen a whole lot of that, but it sounds like it would be inspiring. But innovation is alive and well in a lot of these manufacturing companies. I used to work in aerospace research and development, just building experimental aircraft, and I can tell you, when I walk into a modern warehouse or factory today, the equipment that is being developed there to produce product at high quality, sustainably, with great quality and performance, it's every bit as sophisticated as I recall from when I was working on aircraft. So just celebrating the technical challenges that have been overcome and the progress in these facilities is also a great enabler for driving more innovation.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, one more question as we wrap up. I want to ask about future trends. So what else do you foresee coming down the pike in innovation for supply chain and manufacturing? And what can companies do maybe to prepare for some of these emerging trends?
I can kick it. So definitely generative AI is just at the beginning of things. So we will see much more coming towards us using that. I think something that I mentioned before, spatial computing will be something to kind of watch. There is many use cases that I think can brought us to a much easier explanation of what we're doing, teaching people how to solve problem and how to interact with things. That could be a very interesting elements to kind of bring into the work, the day-to-day work. The last thing that I believe that makes sense to bring it's data. So data, the democratization of data, it's something that has been talked about. People talking about this for many years now, but we are not there yet. I think when we actually reach to that level that everybody have the access to everything in the company systems, that's where you can start see you allowing everybody to kind of utilizing that and create new things that are not yet available for the users in the companies.
And what we see in terms of the future opportunity is further progression towards this idea of intelligent manufacturing. So using that data to improve collaboration, and then going on to better analytics and trending, and then having a little bit more data so you can more effectively predict the future, and then finally having enough for machine learning approaches, which allow you to look at more complex problems like we alluded to before. So intelligent manufacturing is one area, but then the second big one that I see is this idea of more distributed manufacturing too. A lot of the investment that we've seen to this point is about optimizing a particular facility. And most of the focus has been kind of contained within the four walls of a factory, but there's big opportunity to have factories working together more effectively as networks. So you can imagine that optimization concept that we've got happening within individual factories, kind of extending into a broader network. So companies can share equipment, they can pool resources, and they can just become much more resilient than they would otherwise be able to be just as an individual facility. So that's kind of a little bit further out, but what we see happening in the future.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. Anything else that we didn't touch on? You both gave some really great insights. There's so much exciting stuff going on. I know we could talk probably for a lot longer, but anything else you want to mention as we wrap up that we didn't get to?
I think we touched about a lot. Definitely want to be sure that if anybody from the venture capitals hear us or any startups, don't give up. This is especially supply chain is not an easy field or vertical to follow and work with. Relatively old-fashioned, but definitely changing into the right direction. So keep collaborating, keep working with us and with other companies. and let's change that kind of into a better supply chains for all.
And what I would close with is just saying that this type of digitization isn't just restricted to large companies. We've seen companies of all sizes being able to adopt some of these practices and tools and be able to improve their profitability. So whereas in the past it might have been perhaps something only really large organizations could afford, it's become much more accessible to small and medium-sized businesses as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. Excellent. Well, I'm excited to see all of the continuing innovations that come out of both of your organizations, and I know our listeners will really appreciate your insights. So thank you again for your time. I really enjoyed talking with you both.
Thank you for having us, Amy.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Yeah, pleasure to be with you.
Thanks.
Thank you to Erez Agmoni and John Dan Hartog, and thank you for watching this Inbound Logistics video podcast. For more episodes, go to www.inboundlogistics.com.